Hello, you hardcores out there. How you doing? It's Russ here from Porky's Corner, biggest gob in sport. Today we're joined by Kent from Belfast in Northern Ireland. How are you doing, Kent? You all right, mate?
All right, Russell.
How are you? All right?
Dead on, mate.
Finally, we made it. How you been?
Dead on, Russell. I'm all right. How you keeping? You're looking fit.
Yeah, well, training every day, aren't I?
I hope you're not running an them Lacoste trainers still.
Yeah, I am. But
Come on.
John from Welcome Estates, give me some insoles, but they're no good. So I've ordered some Nike running ones. Nike, so proper running ones, 70 quid.
Nike Pegasus.
I don't know what they are, mate. Just Nike. They're only going to get mud. They're only going to get muddy, aren't they? Which is what I resent. I resent new trainers running in a wood. You know, so I should be doing these zooms in here anyway. Gary at Welcome Estates always going on at me. Oh, you shouldn't be doing a bedroom. You shouldn't be doing this. You need to do this. You need to do that. And most of the time, you were right. Like so yeah. I mean, it's only 20 minutes, isn't it? So from mine here. So we're here anyway now. So how you been? Are you all right? Is your mum okay?
Yes, dead on. Thanks very much for asking, Russell. Rings dead on. Thank you.
No problem. We'll skip through the first couple of fights on the big meat show last night. We'll start with Campbell, Hands of Foam, Hatton. What did you make of it, Ken?
It's what I didn't make of it, Russell. That's what I make of it. It's going to get to a stage now where Campbell Hatton's going to be fighting at this level and in this standard of opposition. And he's going to be... Do you remember way back in the 90s that Chavez was going for that? You know, he was unbeaten in about 70-odd fights. It's going to get to a stage where Campbell Hatton's going to be 200-0. You know, fighting this type of opposition. It's going to get to a stage where Eddie's going to turn around and say, how much money am I going to invest in this guy? What's the end game? What is the final product here? He doesn't sell tickets. He hasn't got an exciting style. He's not a big puncher. He hasn't had a good amateur career. What's the end game? What is actually the roadmap for Campbell, the Hams of Foam Hatton?
Well, he's 13-0. He's not been in a title fight. And he's been mollycoddled. And he's fighting like he's a 2-0. You know, so I personally think he's going backwards.
I don't see any improvement with him at all from the first fight. And you would think of someone like Ricky Hatton, who's been around the business so many years as an amateur and pro. Magic Matthew Hatton as well. What a nickname that was. You would actually think they would actually understand the game and the sport and the business and say, right, okay, he's a 50-50, you know, win-loss ratio as an amateur. He's not a big puncher. He's not really that talented. He doesn't sell tickets. What are we going to do? He's going to get scrutinized because he's a Hatton. So what will we do? We'll build him up away from TV on the small hall circuit as an away fighter, get a bit of experience, maybe develop a following. Then when he's ready to be on a big platform, he's on the big platform. But from day one, he's been on all these pay-per-view cards. He's been all on these big events, and the pressure must be immense for him. But the fact that he hasn't got really any good fundamental skills, and he's not really that good, it's going to get to a stage now where Eddie Hearn's going to say, "Here, we're going to have to cut our losses here. What are we going to get back from this? Is he ever going to be ready?"
Well, they're not doing tickets, are they? They thought they were going to do tickets, but they haven't. They haven't done. They don't do them. They don't do. You can't do tickets. So what's going on?
It's that whole. It's that whole football thing. Everybody's trying to buy into the football, you know, the football support and the football following.
Ebony Bridges, Josh Warrington.
You know, Ebony Bridges didn't know who Billy Bremner was in an interview last year, but I digress. So
There's a statue of him outside the ground. He's a legend.
it's going to get to a stage now where there was talk of Eddie. Eddie was talking a couple months back that they were going to put him in the Athletic Diaz, the fighter that boxes in Manchester at Jamie Moore's gym. That would have been a fight they were talking about doing. So for me, that he's never going to be ready for that level. And for me, the way forward for him is that the only way forward for them is getting the title on him is getting him up to about 15, 20 and 0 and going a WBA Continental or worse, a WBF Intercontinental Interim Copper Belt, something along those levels, because that's as far as he goes. He's never going to win a British title, no chance.
They're going to do a Dennis, aren't they, and get him a IBO Continental Bronze.
A WBF Copper Interim Belt.
Yeah. Have you ever thought that dads in boxing are detrimental to the fighter's development, Ken?
I agree with you and I disagree. And I think the main dominator is, can the fighter actually fight? Can they fight? Can the boxer actually fight?
Yeah.
You look at fathers and fighters in boxing, the first ever parent father son relationship in boxer I can remember was Tracy Harris Patterson. He won a world title.
Fought Gatti, didn't he? Fought Gatti, a 2-0 guy.
Yeah, his father was Floyd Patterson. Then you have Lomachenko. His father is deeply involved in his career. So it's not always that way, but there is instances that the father-son relationship doesn't quite work out. You look at all those years that Ricky Hatton and his dad were fighting out in the street and having all sorts of rows and court cases and that. But I think it's all down to, can the fighter actually fight? That's the main thing.
Can Campbell Hands of Foam Hatton fight? Yes or no?
No.
Right then. Another thing. These undefeated matchroom lot that are sponsored by JD Sports, we all know about the longer they're undefeated, and if they get into rankings, they get extra money in that, top 15 or any of the 4 governing bodies. Conor Benn was slotted in at number 5 out of nowhere a few years ago, remember?
He appeared in the top 5 from thinner.
For a few months when they were hell on, and they had to take him out, didn't they? Do you remember?
All was chaos. We were kicking off like mad about it. I think we were pulling our hair out at that stage, going absolutely mad. What hair?
Okay, so we know about lobbying and that. We know what happens. A promoter lobbies for his fighter to beat rankings. But when Conor Benn is number 5 in the WBA, you've got to be looking at fighting people like Enos and Porter and Spencer and Crawford, because that's what progression's called, isn't it? You move up through the rankings. You don't get to number 5 and then decide to go fight guys ranked 100 and 94 or on boxer, really low ranked guys. What's the point being number 5? You want to win for a world title, aren't we? Win for a legacy. So I think they got found out because they made it about money. Because if it weren't about money and it were about legacy, Conor Benn would have gone the traditional route, wouldn't he? Like Johnny Fisher, area belt, and then English, British, Commonwealth, European, and then learn your craft. But Conor Benn decided to skip all that, go straight to number 5, shout and ball, get all the accolades, but achieve sod all. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. This is somebody who went to private school, who has had everything given to them their whole life.
Yeah.
Out of privilege. It's not as if he came in and beat everybody domestically and basically just racked the world scene. He didn't fight anybody domestically whatsoever. Look at the fight against Payard. That fight was I've never seen a worse decision than that first fight. But come back to, when you're number 5 in the rankings, the WBA are saying, in their opinion, you're the 5th best fighter in the world at that weight. and he hadn't even fought for an area title. He ducked everyone at the time domestically. And for me, it's just, for them, it's not actually about building a complete fighter. It's a project they have about getting them into getting them in and getting them to be a name brand fighter, getting them in on pay-per-view without actually fighting anyone and generating money because of his name. It's like the Anthony Joshua project all over again.
Project. That's what it is, isn't it? Really, a project. Okay. Let's move on from Hands of Foam. Let's go to the next one. The Romford Bull, Johnny Fisher. Bosh! What happened? He won a belt. He saved the show, didn't he? Without that fight, it'd have been a 1 out of 10, wouldn't it?
To be honest with you, Russell, we're going to have to stop rinsing him because he produced the goods last night. We have been critical of him. I think his dad just frustrates all of us. And I think that's where we get frustrated and where we're being critical. He actually comes across as a really nice lad. He talks really well.
No. He's saying all the right things, but he's like a cyborg. He's like a matchroom cyborg. You know, the stuff he comes out with. He reminds me of a mini Joshua. You know, all that stuff he comes out with. You ask him a question, mate. He's got splinters up his arsehole. He needs to have an opinion for me to like him as a person. But as regards fighting, I'm happy with what he done yesterday. So I'm off team Romford Bull.
I think he comes across as a decent lad.
Yeah.
I think he's been
overly grounded. He's well grounded, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's got that stage where he's been over media trained. You know, you can be media trained and he's over media trained, but he comes across as a genuine lad. Like, it was a good performance last night. He started off really well. He kind of had problems in that fight. You know, there was times that he had to change the volume. He had to change the output. His shot selection had to change because he was missing certain shots. He had to change the tempo of the fight. It was a smart performance from him. He showed a lot of improvements in there. A lot. Now, he's still a work in progress, but he showed a lot of good changes. Fundamentally, he looked better than he ever did. And I don't think he's going to be one of these heavyweight punchers that's going to get you out in 4 rounds. I think he's going to be one of these type of fighters and one of these type of punchers that he'll carry the same type of power output from the first round in the later rounds. And when he gets in the later rounds, that same type of power that he had at the start of the fight is going to be his strongest point in stopping fighters late. But it was a good performance. It was a smarter, mature performance from the Romford Bull.
Yeah, he can enjoy his Chinese this weekend now, can't he? See what that is. Oh, well, Coogan's IFL live tonight, isn't it? What time is it now? 7:30 it'll be there now. Mark Tibbs was in Spain, so he's not there. Shows you what Mark Tibbs thought about it all, didn't it?
I seen a tweet from Jane Couch that Jane Couch put out last week about it, and it was absolutely savage. It was hilarious. Who would want to pay to see that? You know.
Well, you can understand that though, can't you? Because Jane Couch started IFL, didn't she? She was original founder, wasn't she? And she had it took off her, didn't she? More or less. Do you know what I mean?
And nobody talks about her on any platform. Nobody gives her credit.
Nobody mentions Jane Couch. She won multiple belts as the world champion. She was a pioneer for women's boxing. They're making a film about her, starring Suran Jones, played Karen McDonald in Cora. She started IFL. She can feel wronged about the sport of boxing, can't she, Jane Couch?
And she says it like it is. I always found her interviews really, really funny. I remember she'd done an interview with Belfast fighter Eamon McGee a few years ago, and it was hilarious. It was such an organic video. It was just pure behind the scenes. They had a bit of a laugh, and it was it just comes across as a really, really good boxing person and as a person and personality. And I don't think she kind of got any respect from anyone, and I think she deserves it because she led the way for professional female boxing in the UK. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is. Well done to Johnny Fisher. Campbell Hatton, jury's out, but in my opinion, he's a gimmick and they're just going to keep milking him. So I don't really want to talk about him. I've heard the mother and the father, or the grandma and the granddad, is it Ray and Carol? Pop, pop, bang. Well, when you were riding high with Ricky, you had plenty to say about people who should be fighting this and blah, blah, blah. Boots on other foot now, so what goes around comes around. After that, we've got with Ergovic and Dempsey McKean.
Oh my word! What
were all that about, Ken?
That Russell was possibly the worst heavyweight fight I've seen in a long time. That was, I said, me and Terry have been saying it for months and months and months, and Terry's been saying it before me.
Yeah.
How bad Dempsey McKean is. I actually think Sonny Edwards could beat Dempsey McKean in a boxing match. I'll say I do. I think Dempsey McKean is a heavyweight boxer that punches like a straw weight. He is terrible, like absolutely terrible. Filip Hrgović, I've said this before. I've been saying this for 2 years. I don't rate him as a professional. I don't see what as an amateur. He was an outstanding declarated amateur. David Hay made a good point last night. Not that I agree much with anything that really David Hay says much, but he actually talked a bit of sense last night. He said Filip Hrgović was ready 5 years ago, and I agree with that. You know, when you're a world-class amateur, when you're a medalist, Olympic medalist, when you turn pro, you're in 10-round level, and you should be fighting for a world title with between 5 and 10 fights. If you're going through that, the emotions, 4, 6, 8, 10 rounds, you're fighting worse opposition. He looks like somebody to me that's absolutely bored with boxing. He's waiting for a cash out. And Ronnie Shields last night in the corner, I thought he was going to cry. I thought he was just going to walk out of the corner. Honestly, it was a terrible, terrible performance. It was a terrible fight. He probably could have stopped McKean at any stage in that fight, but he just held. It's terrible, terrible.
Do you think, Kent, that they'll be hanging on for step aside money now with his position that he's got with rankings?
All they're looking to do is either get step aside money or get the world title shot. To be honest with you, Russell,
he could get beat if he fights anybody now, couldn't he? Him?
Financially, the only way he's going to generate money is the step aside, because if he goes in and gets a world title shot, the purse split will be nothing. Like who's gonna the purse split is gonna be absolutely nothing.
Eddie Hills never wins the purse bid anyway, does he?
You know, commercially, that fight last night was atrocious. That nobody's gonna watch. If Filip Hrgović gets a world title shot, no one's gonna want to watch it, and no one's gonna watch it. I'll say that was a commercial disaster for Wasserman and DAZN last night. It was a terrible, terrible fight. Awful fight.
Yeah, it was. Put him in bin then. Dempsey McKean, he was only on show because of the Tony Sims fight, and they wanted to keep it in-house, didn't they? After that one, we had Derek Warchizora and Gerard Washington pushing 42, Derek pushing 40, combined age 81 and 5 months. What is all that about, Ken? Pop, pop, bang.
Wow, that was a spectacle. You had Jared washed up Washington.
Washington.
He was terrible. He looked like a novice that had no fundamental skills. He looked 42. He looked like he hadn't started boxing until he was 30. He held on. He done nothing for the last 8 rounds. His legs were stiff as he was stiff as a board. He was stiff as a board. It was terrible. Let's be honest. This is a guy that fought for the WBC heavyweight title. Wow, like he's probably one of the worst contenders in heavyweight history. And let's be honest, the only reason he got it was because he was Deontay Wilder's sparring partner and mate, and Malik Scott's mate as well. He was terrible. He looked every day of his 42 years. And to be honest with you, I don't know how the board sanctioned a 42-year-old American that hadn't had a win in 4 years. That was absolutely shocking. It was probably one of the worst fights. I thought Hrgovic and Dempsey McQueen was poor. That was just a level up. That was shocking. Shocking.
Yeah, it was. Do you think that Derek's just wanted to be relevant and he just can't leave it alone now? Hey.
I think now, after watching that performance last night, he is absolutely shot to pieces. Like we have been saying, he's been shot for 2 years.
Can't get off at stool, can he? Between rounds, that's usually the first sign, isn't it? When they're getting up and it looks like it's a chore. You're supposed to get up and show authority to send the message to the opponent in court. Look what Aaron Pryor used to do. He used to go like that, didn't he?
The Hawk.
Didn't he? What time is it? Hawk time. He used to do all that, didn't he? And get up in between rounds. And Eubank didn't used to sit down. They're all trying to, and we've got Derek there. It's like they're having to help him up. What is all that? Oh. So now if he ends up on the slab, who are they going to blame?
It was sad to watch for me. Like, he couldn't move his head. He couldn't let his shots go. His balance wasn't there. It was like he was in the ring last night wearing ice skates. That's how bad his balance was. It was terrible. There was no shot selection. The only thing he could do, the corner told him, just throw your jab out straight and it will land. That's the only thing he could do last night against washed up Washington. But there's no way I could see Derek Chisora in a big fight. I don't think Eddie would risk it. But let's be honest, Derek Chisora was only there last night as a backup, as a plan B, to keep people in the O2. That's the only reason he was there last night.
Yeah, it's and what it is with Derek, I think that I personally think he don't want to leave it alone. Every time he's at these pressers, he has to make it about him. He has to do something controversial. He has to be the centre of attention. And I think his brains are scrambled. He can't understand the word he says. Plus, he's a bully. Aren't you, Derek? You bully. Hot man. You ain't John Fury League, you. I don't like him. But end of, he probably don't like me, but who cares? I don't know him. But from what I see, I don't like him. So I'm going to rinse him. And he should be gone out of the sport. Pushing 40, talking like Fred Deuce's son, Scooby. You know where he's going to end up him, don't you, Derek Chisora, don't you?
It looks to me like he's going to go down that route and be fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting where he'll have 50 losses in his record.
There's another Danny Williams. Listen, you know him and Dave Allen and Derek Chisora, they're going to end up on Button Moon. That's where they're heading, mate, Button Moon. Well,
you seen it last night, and who would it be safe for Derek Chisora to go in and fight next on a DAZN show?
I don't know. Max Jenkins. Max, if he gets that ramrod jab going, he might do him. Oh.
it was last. Yeah, I'll say it was poor. Like, it was really, really poor. I think the board are going to need to look at that, but he's won the fight, so the board can't really do anything about it. He's passing all his medicals. So what can they do? You know, they can't do anything. But to be honest with you, who is there out there for? They could have maybe brought someone on like a Manuel Char for him, somebody like a Lovejoy for him. It would have been probably a bit of an easier night. But he, like washed up Washington, was brought in to do the job and get jobbed, and he near jobbed Derek Chisora.
And get jobbed. Jesus. Right then, the main event, Kent. Let me just put this here, right? I've been doing this channel 6 years in October, yeah. I've been here 4 years. Look at this here. That's 4-year-old, that right? 4-year-old, yeah. You saw that video the other day where that, who is it? We're getting chancing his arm. That were about 5-year-old. That video, you know, when I first time you rung,
yeah,
they rung me off. They rung me off a webel number. They rung me off a webel number, and I said, "Don't ring me off webel numbers. I don't answer them." But then they rung me off Matchroom. Right. So that's 4-year-old. That Fury Joshua. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for Joshua Wilder. And do you know what I want to say? While I'm here now, why don't they just stop it? Eddie Hills. Eddie, I'll even call you Eddie Hearn. Edward John Hearn. Eddie, just stop it. Please stop with this Wilder talk, because you're going to have another fight with Joshua because he's nowhere near ready. Then it's going to be 2024, and then there's going to be an injury, a pullout, a unification supersedes this, supersedes that, injuries and politics. And can you just stop now? Because it's gone on that long since you flew Wilder over to be the commentator, pundit, whatever, for Vladimir against AJ, right? That was April 2017. You're even now saying 2024 if it happens. Eddie, can you stop it? Please. The game is up now. Nobody believes a word you say. You're like the boy that cried wolf. So please stop, because it's embarrassing. None of you want to go near Fury. You've had a taste of that Usyk. You don't want none of that no more. You don't want Wilder. He'll light him up. Barry Hearn, your father, Bazza Epstein, pop, pop, bang, he was telling people when Wilder done Audley Harrison that the 3 fighters you're going to keep Anthony Joshua away from. This is before he signed with you. Luis Ortiz, you had him in your stable, you used him as a blocker. Tyson Fury, and definitely Deontay Wilder. We all know that Joshua was getting knocked about up at EIS. Big Truck David Price put him on button moon. So did Daniel DeBar. So did Lawrence Okoli. So, Eddie, the game is up. Please stop with the Wilder chat, because I can't bear it anymore. You're putting years on me. I'm going to end up with another ulcer. I'll end up brown bread over it. So please stop. That's all I want to say on it. Over to you, Ken.
It's just something to talk about, other than talking about the dreadful performance. And we had Tony Bellew, the bell end. Yep.
Tony, you're talking Tony. Oh.
You know, we had Bell End last night say that, yes, he's a multinational medalist, a world medalist, Olympic champion, unified world champion, multiple world champion, this and that, but he's a work in progress.
Devastating puncher, pushing 34-year-old, Olympic gold, world championship silver, British champion, 2-time unified champion, but yet he's a work in progress. Pop, pop, bang.
Wow. You know, if you're going to be a work in progress after living in EIS, sparring there, training there full-time, being a full-time athlete, never working a job in your life other than boxing, and being a multi-millionaire through boxing, having all those opportunities that other people didn't get, and he's still work in progress. many coaches as Anthony Joshua worked with this last couple of years, and he's still work in progress. That's just absolutely nonsense.
At least Andy Lee put him straight, didn't he? A few times, didn't he?
He did, and he just was constantly correcting things that AJ needed to be doing last night, and it was a terrible performance, and he just looks petrified to get hit. You looked at times where Hellenius was actually out jobbing him.
Yeah.
Hellenius was starting to out job him. Never seen that before, other than Usyk. And to be honest with you, anytime that Hellenius was going to throw anything, you seen him trying to slap it away with his right hand, like pawing it away. Anytime that he thought Hellenius was going to throw a shot, he was kind of like trying to paw it away with his backhand. And that just tells me he's just absolutely terrified about getting hit. He looked so upright last night. He had no rhythm. He looked like a rocking horse at some. Most of the fight, he actually looked like a rocking horse. It was absolutely terrible. If that's the improved, if Derek James is meant to be this magician of a coach, and
Magician.
I'm sold. I'm actually really sold. I'm not sold on that, to be honest with you, but he just looks to be getting worse and worse and worse every fight, Russell. Every fight.
He put Errol Spence in with Crawford, and he got spinal problems and that, and he couldn't do certain exercises at gym, so they patched him up just to get him out there, didn't they? And they're going to do it again in a rematch now, aren't they? That's Derek James for you. He's no different to a promoter, really, is he, Derek James? Carrying off like that.
Well, he's getting paid, Russell. He doesn't care. He's getting his cut. But it looks to me that AJ's absolutely done, and all this talk about I'll knock him out, I'll do whatever I want. No, I'll take me if I want to knock him out in this round or that round, I'll do it. Don't you worry. But somebody like Robert Hellenius, you need to be dealing with them a lot better. 5 days notice. He was getting out jobbed. The 2 rounds before he actually get knocked out, he was actually out jobbing Joshua.
Yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs, really, isn't it? For Joshua, I kind of feel for him, but why is he carrying off with all this Godfather, coming out to Godfather and rolling like raps in a restaurant and doing that as if it's a split and going on about I never followed Michael Jordan's, Roy Jones and David Beckham's. I follow Big Meech, Larry Hoover, Nicky Barnes, the Street Hustlers, and Raymond, whatever. Is that Big Meech or whatever? All them people who were going on about, and from the streets, the rugged street. Why is he giving it all this gangster chat when he's not about that life? He did 2 weeks in Reading and he didn't like it. McCracken got him out of jail. Do you know what I mean? So boxing saved him. So why would you even need to talk about that? About your days when you were going around bashing junkies up and you were serving drugs up? Why would you want to be about that life when you've got loads of sponsors? I don't get where his head's at, and I don't get all these people around him. I'd love to know what chat he's chatting when he's over there in America, because I bet he's giving it the big one over there,
I think he's just trying to be cool. I just think he's trying to. I think everyone is going to remember AJ for that embarrassing Delia Smith moment after the Alexander Usyk fight, the second fight.
Yeah.
I think he's doing anything. The claw back. Claw back. Some credibility from that. He's just trying to be cool. He's trying to impress people. I think it's just all absolute waffle, Russell. I think it just makes him look like an absolute weapon, to be honest with you. I think just be yourself. Just be yourself. I think the problem with AJ when he turned pro, he was this manufactured matchroom puppet, and people got sick of it. Then he come out with all that stuff, and people didn't like it. Then he apologized for that, so he didn't mean that even. And there was a massive backlash from everyone. Then that Delia Smith moment after the Usyk fight, he got a massive backlash from that. He's like, who do I have to be to get these people to support me and to get some credibility back? So I think if he's just himself and stop trying to be a plastic gangster, it's just being a cardboard cutout gangster, and it's just coming across really embarrassing, Russell.
Morrison, the guy's a fully blown weapon. The guy's a fully blown weapon, mate. He is, mate. He's a prick. I've got no time for him, honestly. I've been in his company twice, and he's a bit sullen. You know what I mean? Very, very sullen. Once we're up at the cafe, you know, Adam Etchett's uncle, is it Terry? He's got a cafe next door to AJ Hobson's scrapyard back at EIS. Seen him in there. And funny thing about, I think I told this story before, he had like a chicken dinner with fries and that. But within that 30-minute period, something went on his Twitter with him. And it said, "This is what I'm having for lunch." And it were a photograph of him at his mum's in London or something or whatever. And it were all chopped fruit up and all that stuff. And I thought, well, just seeing you in there. Do you know what I mean? What you were eating, with your hangers on, with your Under Armour nonsense on. Do you know what I mean? So his biggest fraud in boxing after the disappearing man, Tony Bellew. His biggest fraud, but then again, that's probably why they're pals, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because let's have it right. They are pals, but Joshua's never been the same fighter in recent years since Bellew crawled up his ringer, has he really? That's probably why his feet are stuck in glue, because he's got Bellew hanging onto the back of his arsehole. Do you know what I mean? That's how I look at it anyway. I don't know how you look at it, Ken, but pop, pop, bang.
Yeah, I see it that way too. I just see you just be yourself, and if people like you, they'll like you. If people don't like you, they don't, and that's just it. You know, it's sport. You know, you look at a lot of people, and it's like David Beckham. You know, some people like David Beckham, some people don't. Some people say, yeah, he wasn't a great player. Some people say he was a great player. It's George Best is the same. There's all Alex Higgins is another one. You like somebody or you don't. It's just one of them things. And as far as this cardboard cutout gangster stuff, it's just embarrassing. You know, it's just really embarrassing. And I think if he was just being himself and being a wee bit more organic, I think people would actually get behind him. But he's too far gone now. It's got that stage now where you know, it's like what they said. Andy Lee said last night that he had noticed that he's had so many trainers. He's been doing so many different things, and he's in between styles. We said that after the Poulet fight. We noticed it right away. But I actually think he's actually in between personalities as well as styles.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But I think that he's struggling with his style at the moment because he's took that much information on from that many different trainers. He must have forgot what got him to where he's got him, hasn't he? Do you think?
Absolutely. We noticed it when he was working with Joby Clayton, when he was working with Angel Hernandez, and he was working with Rob, all as one. And you were watching, I remember watching a session he was doing one time in the media workout. He was doing a pod session with your man, whoever he is, Angel Hernandez, and it was stuff he was doing was crap, to be honest with you. It was really bad fundamentally. Then you look at the stuff he's doing with Rob, and it's completely different. And Joby Clayton as well was a textbook amateur coach. So you put all that together, and it's all like road signs going to different roads. There's nothing coming through the middle. And I think the best advice for him to do, Peter Fury's advice, is the best advice that he can listen to. And all it is go in there, you're a big lump, and have a fight with him and get your shots off. That's it.
Yeah, you want to go on to part 2, Ken?
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.